Good evening, televiewers. Welcome to this edition of Prime Hour, the last for this week. An edition that is dedicated to looking at the efforts for women and peace crusaders in the fight to stop the ongoing conflicts in the northwest and southwest regions. We're also going to be looking at peace and justice, which one should be given a priority as we work towards finding a lasting solution to the ongoing crisis rocking the conflict-stricken northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. We are going to this evening be discussing with two key persons, actors involved in finding a lasting solution to the ongoing crisis. They have been working tirelessly from the very beginning of the conflict, leading women on the one side and also leading the church on the other hand to push the peace efforts in our nation. We are in the company of Reverend Ntah William. He is the Senior Director at the PCC Peace and Justice Center. He is a Board of Trustee Chair of the Cameroon Peace Builders Union. Glad to have you once again, Reverend.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here again.
Okay, we also are in the company of Madam Omam Njomo Esthe. She is the vision bearer, CEO of Reach Out Cameroon. She also is has led so many women organizations in the southwest region and in Cameroon. She has led so many missions out of Cameroon, in Europe, in America, and also in different parts of Africa. She's been there. She has led women to meet the Prime Minister of Cameroon, and as we speak, yesterday she also had a presentation at Cameroon's National Assembly to also present what they feel should be the way out of the current impasse in which Cameroon finds itself. Madam Omam Njomo Esthe, we're glad to have you for the very first time on Prime on My Media Prime.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard, for inviting me in your program. It's always a pleasure, you know, to talk about the efforts which we women have been making in order to contribute in ending this crisis.
Okay. They say, ladies before gentlemen, that is why I'm starting the program with you. I remember I had a documentary with you guys at the beginning of this conflict where you people sounded the note that women are actually bearing the brunt of the crisis. You met with women who are suffering and you felt the need for women to be given more voices to also articulate how to end this crisis. Has anything changed since then?
Many strides have been recorded, Mr. Leonard, ever since we started in May 2018. Women having a voice space to articulate their plight with regards to the ongoing crisis rocking our country, especially the two restive regions of the Northwest and Southwest. And thanks to my humble efforts, we gave them a voice space, which today has become a voice to reckon with. And in this country, we always say that where there is war, you must find women looking for peace. So, yes, what did we do? We lamented, we cried. And during that period, it had its own effect. We carry out broad-based media campaigns. We did lots of activities. We've been doing advocacy with non-state armed groups, the government. We've been talking to ourselves. We've been talking to the communities. We've been seeking pathways for peace. You know, why do we do all this? It's because we think that we've cried enough and we should move a step further. What has changed? A lot has changed. A lot has changed. Even though after recording positives, we still get to witness some changing dynamics every day. But women's actions should be looked upon at two levels.
Okay.
The visible and the invisible. So when you combine the visible and the invisible, you get some effects, you get some positives within the country and the community, which you, who is out there, may not know that it is thanks to the efforts of these women. I will just give you one example. Okay. Our children have been banned for the past 6 years. They were denied access to school, to education. And when we, the women, the mothers, we saw this, we say, no, we cannot sit and fold our arms. Let's carry out an advocacy. And this advocacy should go beyond the boundaries of this country. And we took that advocacy right up to the diaspora, where we met leaders of the non-state armed groups, and we confronted them, we challenged them, and when we came back, we discovered that from the 15% of schools which were operational in 2018, today we find ourselves at 52%. It means that something has been done, even though a lot still needs to be done.
Okay.
This is just one of the many achievements which the strides which we've recorded. Okay,
but the conditions of women living in these two regions you discussed with them, has anything changed? How do they live? How do they survive?
When men decide to pick guns, wherever they be it in Cameroon or in any other country, the people who pay the heavy price are women and children. And so, ever since the start of this conflict, women have been paying the brunt of it. They've been paying a heavy price, you know. When you talk about the change of life, women saw their lives changing drastically from what they used to know and be to what they never bargained for, simply because the men decided to do it their way without consulting the women. Women we used to have, when a woman sits in her corner, even if she has no food, in a little hut, she's contented. But removing her from that environment where she's been used to for years, for decades, to sending her to the bushes is something different. Automatically, her life changes. We saw women who, instead of using the usual dignity kit, which they often use when they are in their houses, they started using leaves in the forest, you know, to contain their monthly flows. So this is to tell you that women's lives have been impacted, not positively within the context of this crisis, but negatively. You know, when we talk about the health system, this has been attacked terribly. I just want to take the recent case in Manu, in Manfi. We all know. I asked the question to know, were there pregnant women that day in that hospital? Were there sick women and with their children in that hospital that day? If they were there, what happened to them? Of course, this affects negatively their lives, you know. Now, when you talk about, let's go to other aspects. Women's rights have been abused and violated. You talk about abusing women. Women have been raped. They've been sexually abused, you know. And you talk about psychosocial needs today. You talk about psychosocial needs today. Women have mental illness today as a result of the so many guns, you know, toning in the communities as per what the women have been narrating or giving us experiences lived in their various communities. The examples abound. You know, when you talk about if the women's lives have changed, yes, but they've changed to the negative. We are not moving any further. Why? Because the conflict continues to escalate instead of de-escalating. So how will you think that the lives of women, you know, is going to change from the negative to positive just out of sudden? No.
Okay. Reverend Ntah, you have also been working tirelessly since the advent of the ongoing crisis, especially in the domain of peace. Almost everybody is clamoring for peace. They want peace. But so many persons are also talking about justice. How do you reconcile the two?
Peace and justice are two words that are inseparable. Okay. And of course, it depends from what side you define them. And obviously, if you are a Cameroonian, you definitely want to start at the point of justice, because people believe that where we found ourselves, particularly in the Anglophone crisis, is as a result of injustice, so as a result of corrupt practices, some societal vices that have brought us where we are. And so, unfortunately, someone will tell you, if you want to talk to me about peace, start with justice. Well, those are expressions, but you will discover that in what we have been preaching, we believe that peace is the end point. You can't get to you can't get to peace when you have not addressed issues of justice. So peace is the finest point. So when you talk peace, it means that issues of injustice have been addressed, or you are in the process of addressing issues of injustice. So this is how I look at it.
Yes, but how do we get to the peace? We must ensure that justice takes course, and how do we explain that for 5 years we are seemingly turning circles?
Yeah, there is one thing that people fail to understand. There's a difference between eradicating and reducing.
Okay.
And in the world of conflict, we do not talk about eradicating. We can only measure per indicators the rate at which we have reduced something. And if we have identified something as an ill, and everyone talks about it, I believe that what is happening today is that people have been radicalized in such a way that no one seems to have a sense of calm, that we can sit and look if the things we have spoken about can be corrected. Can we still trust the government in which we lived under? Can we still give them that opportunity and believe that people can do genuine elections in the country? Can we still trust that those who speak on our behalf in the parliament speak the truth? Can we still believe that the clergymen who mount their pulpit do not preach emotions, they preach actually the prophetic word of God? So all these are embodiment of what the society is supposed to take very seriously, and these are the things we keep talking every day. Someone has said peace is just an indication, and if you truly want peace, then you have to work for justice. These are strong words that we have to continue to carry. And contextually, I believe that we have done our best.
Okay, you have done your best. Is that why peace has not come since then?
Well, it depends on your definition about peace.
You think that something has been done and reduced?
Yes, drastically. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, there's a difference between when you see a house that is on fire, mm-hmm. and they call you, maybe in a local village, to use the sand, to use water, to use leaves to put off that fire. It's different from an expert, or maybe somebody who works with pompier, the pompier, who will run to the scene and use the machines. So we just found ourselves in a day in a war, and in a war that no one thought it would reach the level in which we found ourselves. But then we are trying our best that we put first the fire before we look at the cause of the fire. Okay, that's where we found ourselves, which could have been the other way, struggling to see that there should be no fire at all.
Yeah, but peace and justice, in this case, there is a fire burning, and we want to know who set the fire so that we can punish. That is justice. What do we do first? You first punish before putting out the fire, or you put out the fire, which is peace, before justice?
Well, the first thing is every human being, when there is an accident, mm-hmm. at the humanitarian point, you struggle to rescue. Mm-hmm. You struggle to relieve. After that, I'm getting to the humanitarian point.
Okay.
After that, you like, okay, what happened? What brought this pain? What caused this incident? You are now looking at the cause. Okay, if there are political issues, if there are some people who have maybe manipulated on young people, they are radicalized and they have done that act. Now, okay, why did they do what they did? You now start looking at the root cause. That's another side.
Yes.
But in a stable economy where things are better, now I'm talking in the process of peace building, it means that in order to avoid future crisis, then we start building peace in people. We are talking about building moral values. We are talking about building civil responsibility in the citizens who live in a particular country. And these things do not happen as an event. They're actually a process.
Okay. Madam Omam, we saw you people actually come out after the Kumba incident. The women mobilized. There was a nationwide move. After that, we've not heard so much about what you guys are doing. Is it you doing diplomacy in Yaoundé? Are you knocking some diplomatic doors?
When you want to achieve peace, you must follow a certain pattern.
Okay. Because
it is a chain of events, you know, that leads to peace. It's not just one-time shop or off event that will bring peace.
It's a process.
It's a process. Peace is a process. Achieving peace is a process. You build peace, as we the women say, piece by piece. You are saying that after Kumba, you've not heard so much of us, but of course we've been making news. We've been working. You know, it's just that maybe you don't seem to see. You don't want, or maybe you don't want to see.
I don't see me.
You know,
I see the people there.
The people. Okay.
I know.
There is.
If I say
I would say that.
If I say you have been knocking doors in Yaoundé, it means I know that you guys have been doing.
There is a lot, you know, that is being done within the communities. It's not just about crying or marching.
Okay.
That will bring the peace that we so much need at this timing point. There are many actions which the women have been carrying out. We've been doing press conferences. We've been doing broad-based media campaigns. We've been knocking the various doors in this country and beyond the country to make sure that people listen to us and get to hear our story and see if they can change the current narrative, which is that of pam, 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 as the women say in the villages, which is that of firepower. You know, we've been working so hard to do that. Remember, I told you that when you're talking about peace and you want to achieve the real peace, you work in two dimensions. You do the visible and the invisible. So women have been so much busy doing the visible and the invisible. Now, when you talk about the pieces of peace, what do we mean? Last year, you learned that we were in Yaoundé, where we had the ever first National Women's Peace Convention. That was a very huge event that should not go unnoticed. If you say people have not been seeing what we have been doing, we, the women, who have also been fragmented, decided not to follow that line of thought and action, and so decided to come together under a platform with facilitation from Friedrich Herbert Steinfeld Foundation in Yaoundé. And we held the very first National Women's Peace Convention. And in that convention, we discussed lots of things. We talked about the need for peace building. You know, we talked about strategic dialogue, what it is all about. We came up with the women's call for peace. We talked about psychosocial needs. We tried to examine all these things within the context in which we are living. And we came up with key recommendations which were translated into the women's call for peace in this country, where we looked at the DDR, where we look at the current situation and what should be done, you know, and what should be done beyond Cameroon, like the AU. And so we look at other partners, friends of Cameroon. We looked at all of that. And then the women in their various corners, in their different corners, have been working day and night, trying to carry out actions that will make people understand how to live with the crisis. Take note that we are living in a crisis situation. And if we are living in a crisis situation, all is not lost. We need to preserve the lives of those who are still alive. And for us to do that, they must be taught how to go about it.
Yeah.
Yes, they must be educated. They must be empowered on how to go about living daily within a fragile context. This we have been doing, carry out so many actions within the community. And some of us have been participants, we've been active participants, actors even, in some peace processes, like the what happened in Ntah division. I think women were part of it. Women were part of it, and women made their voices heard. They came up, you know, with their own statement, which they submitted to the powers that be for what they hope to see. So if people say they don't see, maybe it's because we stop marching and crying. We discover that it is not only marching and crying that will bring us the so much needed peace. We need to go beyond that. We need to carry out many actions. And I will tell you, if you must have less, then you must create more. What do I mean? What I mean simply is that for us to get there, there are many actions that are needed and many actors who are needed on board to come on board and make things happen within this context, which we are living in these two restive regions.
Okay, but I know that you have also met diplomats to discuss on these issues. When you meet them, what do you say that the women need the humanitarian assistance, or that they should influence the warring factions to down their guns?
Women meet with many people. Okay. They've been meeting with men with regards to this conflict. When you talk about the crisis in Cameroon, it is not just the parties in conflict. Yeah. You have other key actors. We've been meeting, for example, with the religious bodies. We've been meeting with other people, you know. So, and those other people are also the diplomats that you're talking about. You know, we've been knocking all the doors. And when we meet them, we tell them what our stand is and what we think should be done, because they have responsibilities just like we have. As I keep saying, it is not just about the diplomats. It's not just about the religious. It's about you and me. It's about every other person within the communities that we meet. When we meet each key actor to the conflict, we carry a particular narrative, specific narrative to that actor. So what the women do is that they do continuous mapping, because, as I keep saying, the dynamics of this conflict keep changing. Each time we think we've made positive gains, the next moment you hear about something happening somewhere else. For example, like in Akwaya, the atrocities are just too many. When you think that we are attaining a level of stability somewhere, the next moment you hear that something else
There was an attack
happened.
in Babaju.
There was an attack in Babaju.
Yesterday we are hearing that there is a community in the West region.
Exactly. So truly you have to do a continuous mapping of your actors. You must to continuously analyze the situational, you must carry out a situational analysis, analyze the context, see maybe every quarter what's happening, and from that you build up, you know, to come up with a package which you are going to use either within your organization as a body of women and in front of the partners that you've mapped out.
Now, with respect to,
so it's not just the diplomats.
With respect to peace and justice, what are the women saying? That they want peace, or that until justice comes, peace should not come?
What we are saying is that the women, we've cried a lot.
Okay.
And when a non-state armed group dies, and we go to condole with the mother, we are tagged and given names. When a military dies, and we go to condole with the mother, we are tagged and given names. And as a result of that, we decided to be in between. We decided to hold a narrative which is specific to us, the women, so as not to be instrumentalized in one way or the other. Why do I say so? It's because when we started marching, you were there.
I was there.
You learned, you heard,
I heard what
the
was
names,
said. Yeah.
you know, which were given us. People were quoting and giving us terrible names. I even heard that, that's when I learned about Sardine, La République, women.
People have been given money.
We've been given money. And then other people calling us black legs. And so forth. So finally, finally, people
were confused.
Finally, the women didn't know where to go to or what to do anymore. But we picked up the resolve and said, no, we'll keep being resilient and we'll keep doing that which we've been doing because we are tired of crying. It is not just about crying. Now it is about talking. It's about strategic actions. And when you talk about strategic actions, we are saying that there is need for us to learn to talk. There is need for us to learn to develop the culture of tolerance. We, the Cameroonians, don't talk to each other. We've not learned to talk to each other. Cameroonians need to learn to sit, face each other, talk and resolve differences in a way that will be beneficial to everybody. There is need for dialogue. The women made the clarion call the very first day because the women were the very first civilian action which happened in these two restive regions when this conflict started. If you can remember very well, we were the very first civilian action, you know, and we cried and we started saying that there is need for dialogue. There is need for inclusive dialogue. And when the major national dialogue was announced, we, the women, advocated for representation during the consultative talks so that we'll be heard. And we gave our recommendations, as you clearly said in the beginning, that were received by the Prime Minister, yes. We gave our recommendations. And we'll keep giving recommendations today based on the analysis, you know, which we make of the situation on ground. When we say we, it is not just us that you see. We are frontliners, but we have a host of communities and women who look onto us, whose voices we represent, who usually send their concerns to us. And these concerns, we table to the powers that be, we table them to friends and partners, and we table them to the various communities where we go to carry out either humanitarian actions or peace and mediation actions.
Okay. Reverend, we are going to be looking at this. You say justice should come, but more crimes are being committed as we speak today in the middle of war. How do we bring them to justice? Because almost from the very beginning they said we want justice, we want justice, we want justice, but every single day a crime is committed.
Yeah, as I said from the beginning, every discourse comes from a background, and we are living in a country where people feel being cheated, or people feel that the truth has been covered for many years. We've had those early warning sickness for so many years. It's not like we're surprised by the war. Those triggers were there. But then we are already inside, and people keep talking. I believe that actions speak louder than words. If we take action, we are rather building a perfect society. How do we do this? We begin by changing of mindset. When once our mindsets are not changed, it becomes difficult to be peace. Because change of mindset means that you begin with yourself. What do I really want to contribute in the peace I desire? Is it sitting in a bar talking? Is it writing on the social media? Is it going on the street to march? Or is something that needs to begin with me? Now, how do I even differentiate between the humanitarian actions and peace building itself? Because there's just a lot of confusion out there that emotions are overtaking reasoning. Now, people, you just hear people tell you, we are tired, we are angry. But then, what are we doing in order to bring justice in place? If there was somebody who was in power and the person was not just, what about you? What about your actions wherever you found yourself, in your church, in your own little corner? How just are you in the things we do? If you criticize as a non-state armed group, you criticize a government that have been put in place, the government has messed up, everybody is talking about that government, how are you different? So it goes back to our mindset. It goes back to the kind of animosity which we already found ourselves. Some people say there's a lot of animosity in Africa. We believe that change should be done by force, not by the heart. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that one of the things that has kept justice far from us is one, lack of capacity. A lot of Cameroonians need to build their capacity about peace. Peace is a science, Mr. Leo. Peace is a science that you need to be very careful in every word you articulate. Because whatever thing that you may think you are building a society, it may cause war. That's where we talk about conflict sensitivity. I mean that everything you do, you check your words, you check your relationship, you check what you stand for, you check what you are offering to the community. And when once you do this check, then you will discover that talking is not just enough, but reasoning and going with your heart. That is the next stage in where I put it. How do I get to the things that I want to do for my community? She has now said a lot of good things about what the women are doing. But you discover that there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. Mm-hmm. There are people who just sympathize with situations. Somebody is killed in Akwaya, okay, we saw the images. Where some people say, oh, now some people they're picking them that door. But then, if you are empathetic, you will see that something will push you. There will be a force that will push you, not only to talk about Akwaya's situation, but to carry your heart and place, oh, look at that little girl. I have a girl in my house. It could have been the same girl. It could have been my son. And if this is the situation, then I don't need to talk about this with sympathy. I need to be empathetic. When once we change from sympathy from being sympathizing and trying to go with our hearts, being empathetic, then we get it right. Because when you are empathetic, you will definitely be looking for solutions. Yeah, but how do I help to bring joy or to bring a smile in this painful?
In the search of justice, crimes are being committed. Do all of us understand that by committing more crimes, we are prolonging and adding up to the list of those who will have to face justice?
The question is, who are those committing the crimes? Mm-hmm. The second question is, at what level have we prepared people to take them out for them committing the crime? Mm-hmm. Even those who were radicalized and took guns, that we talk about disarmament, how are we preparing, how are we building up these children so that tomorrow they may experience change in the behavioral pattern? Now, this is where we still find ourselves talking about talking more and doing nothing. Mm-hmm. So I believe that like what we have been doing as a church, what we have been doing as traders, building capacity in people, I believe that when you have it, a kind of pass it on to people, it will bring a formula of multiplier effect. More people talk peace, a culture of peace is built, which will not be 1 year, 2 years. It takes about a period. Mm-hmm. And when once people start realizing that, then you can now say that your theory of change is being fulfilled. Because it will be like, if I build capacity in 1,000 youths, by the year 2020, it means that by 2025, 1,000 times 10, it will give me about 10,000. Then you can ask me in 2025, you had this campaign. How can you measure the change from the indicator? I can clearly tell you, of course, last year when I had a peace seminar, just 5% were interested. But today, I operate a peace school where you have thousands of Cameroonians who are anxious to enroll. That tells you that people are tired and they will need these skills so that they can help their community. That's how we can measure change, and we can talk about a change in attitudes and behavior within our communities.
Okay, Madam Omam, You have been working in this domain of peace for some time now. What are the key challenges that you, as women, are facing? And what is the posture you have of justice? You are mothers. Mothers are, I don't know how who should be punished?
Talking about challenges, first of all, I would say they abound. Okay. We will talk in the areas of protection.
Yes.
Yes, women have been victim of so many protection issues. They've been threatened. They've been threatened. Some of them losing their properties, and some of them being kidnapped, or family members being kidnapped, or their staffs being kidnapped, or being intimidated in one way or the other, simply because they decided to follow the course or the pathways of peace, which at times is misconstrued by one or the other within the communities. Women have issues, first of all, of access. You know, we are so much into humanitarian. We carry the very first humanitarian actions. And even in Munya, when the guns were toning, and it was tagged as a red zone, women braved it, went there to give, as a body, the first humanitarian aid.
I remember.
And yes, and immediately they left there, you also heard about the threats which they got, and the misinformation, misinterpretation of their actions. And they also have the challenge of, besides security and safety or access, you have the challenges of meeting the ever-increasing needs, you know, of beneficiaries. Because when it happens in village A, people in village A, like just what we are hearing, what's happening in Akwaya, people are relocating, people are displacing to the other villages. And when they meet host communities who cannot, you know, absorb or take care of them, there is need to multiply efforts to give support, to provide support to the internally displaced persons wherever they are mapped out, wherever they be. So you also have the financial challenges. You have the remoteness of our communities to get to some of the interiors. Okay, just like we're talking today, we've been analyzing and calculating how do we make it to Akwaya. It's a very big challenge. It's a very big, so the remoteness of some communities makes it difficult, very, very challenging for us to go and also bring solace to our people there. Now, when you ask me who should be punished, I will throw back the question to you. Who, according to you, should be punished? The Bible says, if any of you is without sin, throw the first stone. And Reverend just said it here. Many a times we keep pointing fingers towards one direction. We keep pointing fingers towards one direction, forgetting to point it to ourselves. What role am I playing within the context of this crisis? I, as an individual, am I playing the role of a driver to the conflict? Or am I playing the role of a driver to peace? These are the questions we need to ask ourselves. And when we ask, and when we'll be able to ask ourselves these questions, we'll get that answer which you want me to give you on this platform today. And I will say, and I will keep saying that we all have sinned and falling short of the glory of God, as it is written in the Bible. It means that there is none who is without sin. We have sins, but at various degrees. You know, we have our own issues. We have the blames which we all have to carry at the various levels and degrees. And that's why we, as women peace mediators, we will never point finger towards one particular direction. We will always try to create common grounds to sit talk, define what the problem is, and seek solutions. Seek solutions, talk about it, and say this is what we want. And if we refuse talking to each other, how are we even going to have the common grounds where we would sit and examine? And that's why I would say that there is need for each and every one of us to get involved, for justice to prevail. It's not just justice for A and forgetting B. It's justice for all of us, same as it is peace that we crave for all of us. So when you ask me the question today of who should be punished, I will say each and every one of us has the blame.
Okay, we all have the blame. Reverend Ntah, you hold the same opinion. Justice for who now?
Well, unfortunately, I hold a different kind of theory as a trainer in this work. I believe that in a conflict era, we don't have to concentrate more on the blame game.
Okay.
We have to concentrate more on fixing what has been spoiled.
Okay.
I believe in getting my tools for repair. What can I repair in the things that have already been spoiled? Yes, people keep quoting history. That's why Ecclesiastic even says it's not wise to keep talking about the old good days. We are in today, and we'll focus in tomorrow. Yes, theologically, I may say that history, to some people, it gives an account of what happened. But then our focus is not just on what happened. Our focus is on what is and what is supposed to be. So let's not spend more energy blaming people. Let's see how we can put synergies, all our energies together and forge ahead. So what are the options? What are the options that we can use in repairing? You know, in peace work, there are good words now that people use them. You hear people can talk to you about dialogue. It's an English word that is used in daily words. But what is dialogue in peace? It entails much. It entails a lot of mechanism put in place. It entails getting into some kind of conflict analysis. When you analyze conflict, what particular conflict tool are you using? Because each conflict will have its own specification. And once you analyze a conflict, it helps you on what dimension to take. And that's where the options are coming. You start playing in your head. Okay, what is mediation? It's a big word. It's an English word. We want to mediate. We want these people to mediate. But then mediation, per our context as Cameroonian, might be different from the systematic approach on mediation that I actually train people. Sometimes it's quite challenging because it takes another angle. What about the beautiful words that people are using? That it's not just about mediation. We want a situation where there is no violence. It's an English word. Again, how do you work towards non-violent action? How do we work towards non-violent communication? A good number of the conflict we face today is in what is analyzed in the humanitarian model, which I call do no harm. It's one of the humanitarian principles that at the end, most of the actors that are on the field struggling to build peace are themselves causing the violence because of lack of skills, lack of techniques on how to go about this. So when we call these words, the only good thing there is that let's take our time, study these things, and see how far we can go with them. Non-violent communication is the order of the day. Journalists call it today hate speech. And one friend just told me that the new phenomenon now is that when you are saying something serious, people say it's hate speech. But then, what are the things that push the people to say the things they are saying? What about the policies? Have you checked them? What pushes this person to say whatsoever thing the person is saying? So communication in itself has also been a big challenge. So I believe that in all, people should go back on the drawing board and ask themselves, there's a difference between want and need. We are not at the level of want. If you sit here, somebody sit here, we're talking about want a country. There's a difference between you want a country and being in a country. Because wanting something means that it entails to fix a lot of things before you get there. But being in a place means that there are things that you need to adjust. It's different. When you adjust, it's different from building completely. So I see these things, I see the way people talk, and sometimes when you talk, they threaten you with your own life and this. So we are in a path where the truth should be told. And to me, each time I'm on television like today, I believe that the truth should be told to Cameroonians. I believe that every Cameroonian should become an actor, an actress for justice, not just because we're talking about our political system, because each Cameroonian that is talking about justice, they're only looking about maybe SDF, CPDM or whatsoever, partisan politics. No, that's not what it is. It simply means that sincere feelings. I was just reading today through my phone from Pope John Paul the second, who said justice to him is just sincere feelings towards one another. Because the moment you don't have sincere feeling towards people, there's a lot of deceit. The people who meet, those who talk on behalf of the suffering people, are they actually concerned with the suffering people? Somebody who has funds and want to say, okay, oh, I am really sympathetic with that situation. Is it about the money or is it about the person that is suffering? So when you have sincerity in you and the feelings, very important, then it will build up a good mission and focus for this. Religious leaders, civil society organizations, community-based organizations in Cameroon, I think it's time for us to rise up, hold our hands together as one man, not in a field of competition. Today is about who does it, who has done what, and the other person. It's not about that. It's all about how can we, as she was talking about the we, how can we put all our energy, how can we put all the effort we have, not challenging one another. We all have different spiritual gifts. Some people are good developers. Some people have finances, but they don't have the means. They don't know the peaceful strategies on how they can bring this society together. How can we put all this together to forge our country forward? I am one of the Cameroonians that up to now, Mr. Liu, I'm very, very optimistic because I know that each conflict is good to start a war, but it's very difficult to end it. Those who are there, it's very easy to say, okay, let's fight. But very, very difficult because at a given moment, you even started the fight. You discover that other comes in, they are fighting for something else, not the fight which you started. So that's the danger in it.
That's the danger in it. But how will justice, many persons are writing, they say, we want a justice before peace. How will justice ensure a peace when people are not forgiven? The sincerity you just talked about.
Yeah, you remember last time when I was here. Let me go back to my work. I've done something on humanitarian response towards peace building, and I got to the point of the P, which to me is P equals to 3 arrows, and those 3 arrows goes with reconciliation, they go with reconstruction, and they go with restoration. Now you are talking about justice without forgiveness. Forgiveness is a word that is preached by us. Yes, I can preach it in the congregation. Forgive your brother, or just turn to your neighbor and say, I love you. But you bear with me that the genuine part of it is not in the expression, it is in the feeling and in the doing.
The action, yeah.
Good. So if I have hurt you, it is obvious that I should be accountable for what I have done to give a platform for easy forgiveness. You can't just tell me that yesterday I abused you, I said all the funny things about you, and then you just come, brother, let it go. Let me embrace you, I've forgiven you. It will not go. But if you, Mr. Leo, you sit and you look at me, say, brother, I don't know what went over me. Yesterday I was thinking this way. I have realized that what you said, you were right. And you go on your knees, say, please forgive me. There's a sense of accountability. I mean that you are accountable for your wrongs, and you are ready for change. In that case, when you open your hands, and I open mine, and we embrace each other, there's a sense of truism in what we have done. These lip services that people do and just say, I've forgiven you. No, it's not true. It's not true. Let's go back. What break the relationship between you and me? Something happened. If you were to take in the context of the discussion that we're talking, the Anglophone crisis, I will tell you what happened. There are people beginning from government ministers, beginning from faith, religious leaders, beginning from that have erred. They have said things that have hurt people. There are people in cause of fixing, they have gone on tribunes, they have gone in big halls, they have said things that have hurt other people. If you have hurt somebody, we are fighting a country that nobody will take it. The truth about it is that it's about the passage of time. If you are 80, if you are lucky to live 20 years again, then you thank God. It means that in 20 years you are winding out. You are no more there. So if we were looking at the equivalent to be 100, then it means that at the given moment, Cameroon is a bigger substance, and we are just a shadow who pass. So let's look into our eyes and begin to see where we have hurt one another. If you are a separatist leader or you are somebody, a nationalist, whatsoever name, because people get hurt, you were calling us separatists or you were calling us nationalists, it's not about the name. It is about what happened, where are we, and where are we moving to. That is the beginning of justice, sincerity, feeling for one another. I am on TV. I told a friend, I know you so well. You've been asking people not to go to school. You've been advocating for this. I know you so well. I know your family. You've removed your father. You've removed your mother. You've removed your siblings. They are not in the village. Your parents are all in the United States. So, on what sincerity are you telling me you're fighting a just cause? If there were a God who is a God of vengeance, he will strike you dead because you are convincing people on a cause that you don't believe in it. Because if you believe in a cause, why don't you join and we fight together? It's not about fighting. It's about the conviction of the things we say and the things we believe. I believe strongly on that. So that time has passed when we should keep talking and talking. But to think that those who have hurt, if I have hurt you, if I have hurt any Cameroonian as I'm on TV, I will say, I am sorry. Can you, they say to err is human, to forgive is divine. Can you throw that word and embrace me as a human being? Can we ride on again? Can we sit as Cameroonians? Sometimes we pretend that we don't love each other, but there are some things that connect us as Cameroonians. Mr. Leo, you know, football. One of the football. I was in Munya where they had asked us that nobody should celebrate what I think was Cameroon playing with Nigeria. All of a sudden there was a goal and I heard people shouting, "Go!" And at a few minutes they were quiet because there was fear. So those things are enacted in us, that there are certain things that connect us, that we should look at those things more. And not just covering the truth, but also denying the ills, those who are bringing this whole country into shame. Be it a uniform officer, be it whatsoever, governor, minister, let's deny the ills and embrace one another when these things are denied publicly.
Okay. Good evening. In the studio, I want to greet you, Reverend Pastor, Madam Omam, and you, Mr. Leo. What I need in this Anglophone crisis is peace, because the Bible says in John 14:27, "My peace I leave with you, my peace I give you, not as the world. Thanks so much. I'm called Akeba Calvin Ndong. I'm watching from Fundong, Northwest regions. Thanks so much for the powerful discussion. Again, the only source of true peace is from Jesus Christ, because he is the Prince of Peace." Okay, good evening to you, to all of you watching us from Fundong. I had an opportunity to talking to some of you who belong to the My Media Prime fan club that way. A special greetings to the guys in Nyasoso, also watching Tole, and almost everywhere. Now, Madam Omam, now there is a need for a path to peace. We did a documentary some years back on that. Path to peace. What is that way forward?
If we must talk about the way forward, we will go deep in order to come up.
Okay.
Usually, we say in the peace jargons, in the peace arena, that if we need peace, we must go backward in order to go forward. We must go down in order to go up. What does that mean? It means that we will not just talk peace, peace from a vacuum. We will try to look at what happened. We will try to analyze the causes of the things which led to what we are living today. And then we will come together, dialogue, and settle our differences, then move forward. There are many things that needs to be done. As I said, it's not just about healing. People have been healing in different ways, giving psychosocial needs that we've been given. It is about us looking at what each actor is doing, looking at each action which each party to the conflict is doing, which is wrong. Analyze it and come up, bring it up. And it is not just about talking about dialogue. Each time we keep talking about inclusive dialogue, looking only at the top, right?
Yeah.
Hoping that it is government that should organize these dialogues. We need to start having our own dialogues in our respective communities. That is the pathway to peace. If we must talk about justice and peace, let's start having dialogue in our different communities. Let's start examining what the issues have been, and then we bring them up, harmonizing them to go to a higher level. This we have not done. One day we just woke up and we went up and we say major national dialogue. But there is more to it. Before getting to major national dialogue, we must hold our own dialogues in our various communities. Let us look at what is happening. Why are the children, why are the youth being radicalized every day? Despite all that, all what is being done, why are the youth being radicalized? Have we asked ourselves the question? If we sat in our various communities and we started asking those questions, we'll document them, and try to suggest what is it that we need. And these will come up, you know, to something concrete that will lead us to what we want to see with regards to pathways of peace. So, our youth have been unemployed, and there is so much unemployment going on because of the high levels of poverty which we still witness today in the various communities. Now we heard that armed operative groups join some communities somewhere in order to attack another community, right? Why are these youths doing that? Let's ask ourselves the question. It's because they found a new way of earning a living. Though that way is the wrong way, is the way that leads to death, is the way that leads to perdition, as I will put it. You understand? So we need to do an X-ray in all our communities. Let the community sit and start doing an X-ray of what is happening within their communities, what the issues are, because these are the issues that have escalated and that built up to the other things which we are seeing. And while we are talking about communities, we also call government to sit and look at that which they are not doing right. Let them right the wrongs right. And then we are talking to the non-state armed groups. Let them sit. First of all, there is so much fragmentation for one cause that we don't even know what to believe in anymore. You understand? If you want to talk, you will talk to who exactly? So the problems are so many that we need to sit each actor in their various arenas, start building up from there so that we come together and we face each other and we talk about it in all sincerity, trying to address the differences, trying to examine the differences, you know, through dialogue.
Okay. Through dialogue, is that the justice? Is that where justice starts? Going back to where those basic problems are, looking at why they did not work and how they can fix it, because you cannot fix what you do not know, what spoiled the previous situation?
Sure. That of course, you'll be using one of the most famous conflict tool called the problem tree, where people, you have to look at the root cause, the core problem, and of course the effect. And if we were to take those simple 3 steps or stages within the Anglophone crisis, there is need for, I don't think that we have not diagnosed. I believe the truth on the history of Cameroon is known. It's an issue of censorship. It's an issue of misinformation. I was just talking to you a couple of minutes that we are on a project called National Identity and Fragmentation. And I was surprised that I am in a kind of group discussion with people of French speaking. They have their own story about the history of the country, which is different, a bit different from what we read in school. And a few days ago, I was listening to Professor Victor Ngo, that I read his book and wrote GCE several years behind. And I saw him admitting that there were some gaps in what he presented as history, and that there was need for more research to be done. These are things that we all need to look into them today and believe that we can focus in a better way when we know our background. You can't forge ahead when you don't know your background, when you don't know where you are coming from. So our history is important. And the second thing there is that if I come with another tool, Mr. Leo will be talking about position, interest, and need, which is we commonly call that the onion tool. There's still position. People are still at their position. You can't solve a conflict when the two belligerents are still at their position. This is what I want. I want what they say they want. Interest. Are the people who are fighting, are they really fighting for the suffering masses? That is the question. Is it about gaining a name? There are people who are not known, but I tell you the crisis have made them so popular. Yes. So is it about you or is it about the situation? What is the need of the people? What is really the need today? If you ask me what is the need, what do Cameroonians need? Do Cameroonians actually need a new country? Do Cameroonians actually need the kind of leadership we have? Is that what we need? The answer is no. Because the average man has been crying there, and there seems to be a kind of structure. If you read diplomacy and the political structure of Africa, since from the time of imperialism to today, you discover that even in neo-colonialism, there are still things that if you don't scratch into them, it becomes difficult to change the status quo. That's what we know, and that's what we believe, that as men of God, we believe in the power of prayer. I know the only thing that God has made in life that man cannot change is the power of nature. No matter how much you talk, the great minds like Nkwame Leopold Senghor in Africa came and they left. We can only remember them because they preach a philosophy of conscientism that we can think that it was a better path. What about you? What about me? If Madame Omam is an actor, I don't know her focus as a person, but for me, every day when I sleep on my bed, every day when I rise up from the bed, I'm just telling God, oh, if there's one thing that you can do, is to provide bread in the mouth of those suffering children. It should not be about the messenger, but it should be about the one that has sent the messenger, which is Christ. You just read from someone who was talking about Jesus being an embodiment of peace. That's why you see Jesus Christ did not go back talking about justice. He said, my peace I live with you. He knew that with him, he had conquered injustice. So when we talk about peace, that's why we always tell people, don't keep talking. Oh, don't be talking about peace, talk about justice. No. The moment you are ready to talk peace, it means that you are a complete person who has been able to fight all the other vices. And you are at that point, the finest point, which Jesus Christ was an embodiment of, my peace I give to you. Because if he's giving you his peace, it means that his peace is a peace that carries purity, carries love, carry a kind of healing. She was talking about psychosocial support. Jesus Christ did that. He saw people who were suffering, and out of pity, he helped them. Out of love, he helped them. So that is the point in which we should start pushing ourselves to. I got into an argument with a professor of history who told me, I believe that, Reverend, all this year, all what people have done is rubbish. That's what he told me. But I was calm, because deep in my spirit, I'm convinced about the things I do. I don't want to tell me from the route and the path that I've taken, which I know is the truth. And I told him, if you are a Christian, you will believe that the Christian path is all about salvation. When Christians are talking about salvation, I want to have salvation. I want to have salvation. What are the ingredients? What are those components that gets you to that finest point of salvation? You should not sin, right? You should not sin. And so if you stop sinning and do the right thing and move on the path of righteousness, it's salvation. That's just what we're saying.
Okay.
That's just what we're saying when it comes to peace. We're not like saying that people should not talk about justice. Let justice truly lead us to peace. But when we talk peace, it means that we want the best.
Okay, we want the best. There can be no justice in the middle of war. Nobody can express him or herself freely in the middle of war because of fear of violence and threats. There must be peace before we can talk about putting justice in place. We can achieve peace if Anglophones stop blaming only the government while we commit atrocities towards each other because of greed, selfishness, and jealousy. In 2016, 70% of Anglophones were on the streets to launch this crisis. That percentage should today be involved in bringing peace and not sit and claim to be victims and expecting God to bring peace. Richmond Chair is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Richmond Chair. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm very happy for this nice topic at this point in time. Normally, justice comes first and peace follows, because once there is justice, peace is automatically flows. Remember, we have peace in some areas, but we don't have justice in the same areas. Abiache Cletus in Bifang, that is in Widikum. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all in the studio. To my humble suggestion, I think peace is the outcome of justice, and when there is justice, peace follows automatically. So our nation needs but justice at this point in time. I'm Nelson, writing from Suza. Yes, but justice is worked out under some instruments now. In war, how do you implement this? We have seen what happened in Rwanda and in Sierra Leone. There are special courts that were erected at the end of the conflict to try those who were involved. Now, in the middle of war, how do you engage?
Well, in the case of Rwanda, I think the gacaca, that's the gacaca. The gacaca was used after the genocide.
Yes, in Sierra Leone the same.
It was not within the genocide, because I was talking to you about accountability. After the genocide, people ask themselves, but why did we find ourselves where we are? And I tell you that I thank God that I personally visited the Morambi Memorial Center. And one of the things that they have written there is never again. That statement looks so light, but it's pregnant with a lot of meaning. When somebody said never again, it means that they have assessed what happened to them. Just because of social stratification, they could lost the number of lives. Some people will say that they were manipulated, but then, can someone manipulate you on something that you don't believe in? That's the question. So they saw that, and they said never again. And so I believe that for justice to take place in Cameroon, all the atrocity people are committing now, you go to a village where you know your neighbor, there's a child that you know in the village, your younger brother, tomorrow you go in the village, he's carrying a gun. They kill one another, they do things. At the end of the day, with our traditional setting, those things don't go free, you know. That at the end of the day, justice will definitely take its course. So whatever thing you do, know that you give an account for. If you don't give it in this physical life, as Christians, as Muslims, even as traditional religion the people from traditional religion, we believe that there is judgment at the end. So everyone will be accountable of whatsoever thing we have done. So justice must be on board. Justice must be on board. Not only those who are kidnapping, not only those who are causing pain as leaders of a country. Everyone will give an account before the judgment throne of God. So, at wartime, let's hope that the ceasefire. That's the appeal. We are begging. I can't count the number of times that I've gone on my knees begging the young people there. You that is carrying a gun. You that is carrying your own gun on your lips. You that is carrying your own gun on social media. You that is carrying your gun on WhatsApp groups. There are people who are dangerous in WhatsApp group, Mr. Liu, that their own gun is worse than anything. If we start changing this mindset, then we may get to where the Rwandans are. I have been to Rwanda about twice, and I admire that small country. Rwanda is, I believe, per area, we are talking about Northwest and Southwest. But it's a beautiful country, now everyone talks about it. It's a beautiful country. The behavioral pattern is changed. That you can clearly see a change on attitude, the ABC,
Exactly.
the attitude, the behavior, and the context is not the same. There's a change in attitude, which is reflected in the behavior, and of course the context is changed. That the country is corruption free.
Exactly.
Nobody takes. I remember I wanted to ease myself in Rwanda, and somebody told me, no, if you do that at the roadside, you're going to pay money. I remember in Butari, where there is what you call where people cross. We had to get in front as Cameroonians. We did not know that these guys were like really following the instructions to go where you were supposed to cross. And when we realized it, we were ashamed. Nobody queried us, but we were ashamed because it was a community of order. We need to get to that mindset. I remember we stopped a bike and we're telling that bike man that we want to get to the road. It's normal with us. Carry two of us. You've seen soldiers climbing even three on a bike. Carry two of us to the roadside. He told us he could not express himself in English or French. He was just showing me the helmet. I have one helmet, so I cannot carry two of you. We said, no, just manage. That's our Cameroonian, which I'm also involved. So these people were already, trained in a way that the mindset, he was in a monastery, right, on an earth road. But he refused to carry two because it's not just about the law. He believed that it is wrong for him to carry two people on his bike.
Okay.
Change of mindset. So I hope we'll get there, and through peace, love, and justice.
Okay. Good evening. Akam Norris, I'm watching from Kumba. For me, I think there should be peace before we talk about justice. Yes, talking about peace, who should bring peace in this context?
I said it earlier. Let us all look at ourselves, do an introspection of our very selves, and ask ourselves the question, who am I and what am I within the context of this conflict? What is my role? What part do I play? I said it earlier. Am I playing the part of the driver to the conflict? That is somebody who fuels the conflict, as he just said, like you have warriors, fighters on social media and so on, or am I a driver of peace? This is a question, and this goes to each and every one of us. Every one of us has the responsibility to become a peace builder and a mediator wherever they find themselves. Because Jesus did not come for the just or for the saved. He came for the lost or the unsaved. So, meaning that the justice we so much crave for will take place naturally within the setup of the commonness of our actions, like the examples he is just pointing when it comes to Rwanda. When it comes to Rwanda today, it is all about accountability. It's all about accountability. It's all about transparency, and we all will fall to that, and we will live happier lives if we subscribe to this pathway. So, you and I, all of us out there in those various communities, each of us has the responsibility to restore peace in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and in our regions, and why not in the country. It is our responsibility to do that. We all should be peace builders because we all have been affected in one way or the other. That does not discard the fact that we should not do a thorough analysis of what the problem is. We have problems. We don't dispute that fact. But how we go about handling those problems is what makes it questionable. Questionable in our homes, in our communities, in our society, and even with the international community that we keep calling every day.
Justice, well, almost everybody is caught in the web. I don't know who used the example of Jesus, who said, he who has not done this should cast the first.
I did.
Okay. Now, justice, who is going to actually exact this justice?
It goes back to all of us, the path to peace. I go back to your quotation. It's a nice textbook if someone can write. The path to peace is something that involves everybody. And if we have to take the path to peace, it means that we have to take the path of truth. What is truth? I'm talking about biblical truth. Biblical truth is saying the things you know that are correct without mixing fact to hate or hurt one another. We will be talking about accountability, the path to peace. Let's be accountable for the wrongs we have done. There is no one who is perfect. That's the truth. Even if we talk for the whole day, those who claim they have been building peace, along the line we have made our own errors as humanitarian actors, as peace builders. Along the line we have made our own errors as people who work for the states. Along the line we have made our own error as diplomats who have come in course of solving the issue. Maybe we're also playing our own diplomatic games, which is all for interest. Along the line, people have hurt one another. So let's be accountable and say, oh, we are making a decision out of this. We want this thing to move forward. It's a decision to make. And if every person makes that decision, we'll get to a point of peace. Love conquers all. Love conquers all. If you remove a gun, you will discover that those who kill, they don't kill when they are in their normal senses. They take drugs. Because the way God has made us, I tell you, if you raise a cutlass against somebody, humanly, when you are normal, those affection for one another, they are there. Today, I find it difficult to kill even a hen. It will surprise you. Because sometimes when I see blood oozing out, that sacredness of blood, that wholeness of every human being. If you take a human being, whether you are a military, you are a soldier, or you are an armed man or woman, you beat some other person up with a cutlass under the person's feet, you slap or you spit on the person's face. Take it vice versa. If you were the one, how would you feel? So when we have love for one another, then a lot of things will be done in order. And let me not forget this. I believe that one of the things that is also holding us not to get here is that there's a high degree of false representation. When Madame Omam was talking about the women and talking about what happened in Yaoundé, I was just thinking many things. I'm one of the persons that I believe strongly in womanhood, because I was raised up by a woman and that's the highest thing that remains in my lips every day. And I'm one of the persons that believe in what women are capable of doing. But then you discover that we are suffering from a kind of issue of representation. It's not just about women. It's not just about the civil society. It's not just about the faith base, about every facet. Who are the people who speak for us? especially in our context. It's even sad. And I have said the time has come when everything that we do, it should not start from up. Let's get it from vice versa.
Grass field.
Grass field. If you are making a conference, it may be, just imagine that you ask the opinion of women from Jikwa, where I come from. I'm from Joe. Maybe you don't know what is happening right down in the village. They will tell you. You gather them. And sometimes, you know, the social stratification that we have put some of these women behind. So they may only have the space to talk in their own local community and state what they believe is the solution. My grandmom never went to school, but I believe she's the highest scholar I have ever met in this life. There are very intelligent persons out there. It goes with civil society. Okay. Because you have money, you register an association. Tomorrow you are talking, you are a civil society organization. You are talking on behalf of youth. Which youth? How many youths have you seen? Okay. How many youths have you consulted? How many youths have you been able to meet them in the Northwest and Southwest region? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all in the studio. I think if you move anywhere in these our two regions and ask even a grandmother, the only word that will come out of her mouth is peace. Many in other cities will cry for peace first, not justice, because we all want to return back to our various villages. So most of us cannot put peace in practice because of our private pockets. Hans is writing from Bomaka. Good evening to you, Hans. Good evening. It's true that peace comes before justice, but it can't work here in Cameroon, particularly with the Anglophone crisis. We know who our leaders are. We go for justice before peace. Derek, writing from Cambe. Good evening to you, Derek. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Ondowski, writing from Bomenda. I think when justice prevails, peace will come first. Okay. Good evening to. Hello, my warm greetings, more grace to this wonderful topic today. Samgwa is writing from Bakoko. Good evening to you, Samgwa. This one says, most of our leaders are sitting on the way to peace and justice. Let them give way so that peace may reign. Bernard is writing from Muteng, and I equally appreciate the panel members of today. They are really educating us. Thank you, Bernard. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and a special greetings to Reverend Ntah, Williams, and Madam Omam. Yes, indeed, all of us are carrying guns in many ways, and I believe until we put them down, peace is not coming soon. Take edits, need cosmetics. From Bomenda, good evening to you, Edith. It's been long I read from you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. To me, I believe that peace first before justice. If there is no peace, there will be no justice. With peace, you can do everything, but with justice, without peace, nothing can move. Samuel is writing from Alakuma in Bamenda. Good evening to you, Samuel. Ma Bison writing from Kumba says, good evening, Mr. Liu and members of the panel. Reverend, I like your contributions. Kudos to Madam Omam. I hope the actors are listening. Dr. Esthe Bison, there from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Liu and your panel. I love this topic so much. This is what Cameroonians need. I feel within me that this program should keep repeating itself to change the mindset of Cameroonians. Carpenter Eugene, writing from Bomenda, GRA. Yes, Madam Omam, the women, are there some other activities that the women are planning to engage in, or you people will just continue with the diplomatic moves?
I'm just from Ewane.
Okay.
You know, we've not had rest, and I don't think we can rest so long as people, our communities are bleeding. We were in Yaoundé yesterday to meet the lawmakers of this country. We took advantage of the commemoration of the International Parliamentary Peace Day 2022, and we went there still with facilitation from Freddie Shepherd's Temple Foundation, you know, to talk to them, to tell them. They listened. Some of them were weeping in the hall. when they heard about testimonies of some of our sisters from the Northwest and Southwest and even from the northern part of Cameroon. They didn't believe that atrocities could be committed to this level, you know. It's different when you keep talking out there, out of sin, when you are not on ground to see and to live what is happening every day. So this is just one of the actions, engaging lawmakers, you know, to give way to women's participation in all peace processes so that we can impact in one way or the other, because we believe that with the women, we are moving towards the path of affirmation, affirming our actions that yes, we are ready for negotiations and mediation, why not? And after this, in July and in September, we are preparing towards, moving towards the ever first women's peace negotiations in this country, which will be held in September in this country. And this, you discover that it will entail so much, it will involve key actors to the conflict and even other alternative actions which will go to build up on that. And besides that, our individual organizations have been involved on peace mediation work at community level. We will keep engaging the communities, just like what we did with the cultural and development associations. We discovered that there was a kind of total disconnect between the grassroots, between the communities and the internally displaced persons. When we went to Mankon, we were able to trace out, to map out where the people who ran away from Mankon went to. And we discovered that some of them were in Bafoussam, even those from Ntah. I'm just giving some example. We went to 12 communities in the Northwest, and some are in Chan, some are in Boya, some are in Douala and Konsamba, Bafoussam, some are in Yaoundé and beyond. And so we made a kind of reconnecting them, bringing them together through actions which we carried out by strengthening those on ground so that they will see how to follow up with their brothers and sisters who have displaced to other places. Now, we carried out this, this was just a pilot phase of the project, which worked so well. Peace to his soul. The late Fon of Mankon opened his fundum to us, and we went there and we strengthened the capacities of people right inside the palace. And it was wonderful to discover that people were so much eager to learn about those actions that will make them live with the crisis in a crisis, in a fragile context. You understand? What does that tell us? What does that mean? It means that we need to live. We need some kind of stability. Even if we should sit and talk, but there is need for some level of stability. And this can only be done at various levels. Just like I said, that we must go back to the grassroots to start talking to our communities, to start talking to each other, examining the issues, bringing them together in order to make a whole.
Okay, Madam, you are so very involved, but many persons may not actually know that you also run Reach Out Cameroon, and you are very much involved in humanitarian distribution of humanitarian stuff to some of these places. Very difficult. I'm sure some of your workers have been kidnapped.
Yes, you know, we were the very first responding to this crisis. We established, we carried out humanitarian aid, and before any other actor could come on board, we were going to right deep into the forest, even though it was very difficult. We have been arrested, as they put it, at some time kidnapped, beaten, simply because we want to instill hope, the lost hope in the lives of our brothers and sisters who have been displaced. It's not been easy, but we've been doing that. We did that, and we expanded. We're doing that. We did that in Southwest. We're still doing it. We're doing that in the Northwest. We're doing that in the Littoral, in Bafoussam, in Chang. We've been in all those places All this while, and we even went and traced some of our internally displaced persons from Southwest and Northwest in Yaoundé, and we've been strengthening their capacity so as to see how they could come up with coping mechanisms, giving them coping strategies, which will enable them to live lives worthy of the calling of a human being.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the panel. I think peace should come first before justice, and this peace can only come if the Northwest and Southwest children pack and go back to the villages, okay? Mr. Leo, greetings to you and your guest, Mama Omam Esther. I have learned a lot from your panelists. Peace is what we need first, as the women are fighting. When we ignore the cry of a mother, more worse things will follow. Njikem Robert is writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I think without peace, there can't be justice, because justice is attained through human judgment and perception at a given period of time. Laws are made, and at times, laws are reviewed and modified. Without peace, people can't sit and think right to bring justice. Without peace in your panel, Mr. Liu, your panelists may not even honor your invitation, not to talk of expressing themselves well. Paul is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Co. I suggest peace should be preached first before justice follows. Stephen is also writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Extend my greetings to the father in black. I'm enjoying his talk. Salifu is writing from Yaoundé. Okay, is Reverend Pastor. Good evening, Mr. Liu and panel members. You guys are doing great. Your contributions are so useful. Please let the authorities that be give the deal to allow women visit all villages and talk to women on the ground. Ma Evelyn is writing from Boya. Please, Mama, I need your number. Okay, you want Madam Omam's number? Request for that after the. Should I share your number with them?
We have, yeah.
Okay.
Feel free to.
Okay, so just write me after. I'll share her number with you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The war at hand was caused by injustice. So to have peace, there must be justice first. Asking for peace before justice is putting the cart before the horse. I'm choosing Isaac, writing from Yaoundé. Mr. Liu, justice first before peace. Mr. Liu, in our present situation, peace is far, but when justice will take its place, peace will come with no force. Thank you for this your program. It is so educating. Pa Ojohnson in Kumba. Good evening to everybody in the studio. Thank you very much, Pa Ojohnson. Camilla, writing from Douala, says, good evening to you all in the studio. I thank God for the wisdom to bring people like you to the studio. For my own opinion, it's high time people like the pastor in the studio should be the person who should work in the government, because only those God have chosen can help their country. Thanks to the mother in the studio and pastor. Good evening to you, Camilla. Yes, the mother is also getting your greetings. Good evening, sir. It's Mary from Upstation Bamenda. We need peace before justice. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The program is very educative, but we should try to tell the truth to ourselves. If we are asking whom to meet in order to solve the crisis, are they not people in the prison whom we call terrorists? Release all the prisoners and peace will turn back to the two regions. Paul is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and to everyone in the studio. I really enjoy the program. We can't talk about peace and justice when the both parties are still holding guns. They need to drop down their weapons, then we can talk about peace. Mike, writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm enjoying the program. Thanks you, and I celebrate the Reverend and Madam Newkonge Eugene, writing from Mutengene. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists in the studio. There can not be peace without justice. When there is justice, then peace will be the end result. Alfred Tamufo, writing from Boya. Special kudos to Iya, Omam, and Reverend. Hope our leaders are watching. Henry is writing from Kumba. Now, you see, so many persons say we want peace before justice. Some say we want justice before peace. But someone just raised an issue. Should they push not actually before a ceasefire so that both sides...
I think yes, I think that this was one of the focus of the women, especially with the advent of COVID-19.
Okay.
Women published so many statements calling for ceasefire. We even called and caused some external friends, you know, to help call for ceasefire. We learned and we heard, you know, after some invisible actions, some of the leaders of the non-state armed groups also calling for ceasefire. But did we achieve that? Did we attain it? No. Why? It's a question we'll keep asking ourselves today. It's because of man's self-centeredness. It's because the men think that when they say that is what should be, forgetting that it is all about a social contract. And in this social contract, it is inclusion. The men, the women, the youth, the people with disability, all of us should sit and agree to actions which we want to take. Now, we keep talking about justice. It's true. There is no society where wrong is done and then people do not account for those wrongs. But finally, the question I keep asking every day is that who will judge who? Looking at the twist of events and what is happening in our context, who is going to judge who? Given that we have the forensic truth and we have the political truth, we all have what we call we know about the forensic truth, each and every one of us, and we all know about the political truth. We are the embodiment of all of that. So there is need for those who call for war to sit and rethink their actions and create humanitarian corridors for us, educational corridors for us, and many others. We need that. And for us to do that, there is also need for a call for ceasefire. And if they don't do that, and we, the population, keep saying that we want peace, we want some respite, and they don't adhere to the wishes of the population, then who are we working for? Who are we fighting for? Is the question that we will be asking to the leaders, because accountability time will come. When I hear a child who is 18 years old carrying the gun, who did not finish class 7, coming to tell me his mother that we want justice, we want justice. And I say, yes, my son, you're right. You want justice. But what, according to you, is justice? He just say, we want justice. So we use the word without even knowing what the word represents or stand for. You understand? So what we are saying, we the women, what we are saying is that we all have sinned, as I said earlier, and falling short of the glory of God. And if any one of us knows that that he or she is without sin, let him or her be the first to throw the stone. Okay.
Good evening, sir. I'm really enjoying the program. Please, we need peace and justice. It's Mariette writing from Tico. Good evening to you, Mariette. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Me, I'm enjoying the program. More grace to you, Reverend Williams, my chaplain back then in PSS Douala. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Thank you for the program. We are following live from St. Albert's Comprehensive College, Bafoot. Peace is the fruit of justice, but it is important we define clearly what kind of justice we are looking for. Justice is a varied concept, and we need to be clear with the kind of justice we are talking about. This is Shufai Evaristus Bizenui. Okay, Shufai, good evening to you. Greetings, Mr. Liu, and greetings to your learned panelists. I wish the parties involved in this crisis still know that God exists, because if you know God, you will know peace. But unfortunately, the atrocities they commit tells me that they are far from God. To me, if the parties involved don't fear God, then we cannot have peace, even if justice is done, given the present situation where many people are eating big from the crisis. This is Umaru Sanda Adamu writing from Bamenda. This one says, thanks for this program, sir. We need peace before everything. Lisa is also writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, Lisa. We are talking about the fact that we have fallen short of the glory of God. All of us, almost everybody has sinned. Why don't we also push for forgiveness and reconciliation?
How do you do it? I'll come before maybe Reverend picks up. Okay. How do we push for forgiveness and reconciliation when we do not even want to talk to each other? Okay. When we are so much fragmented, when we are not organized in our approaches, when we refuse to be a people-centered leaders, you know, in all that we do, it's about the self. What we are saying, we the women, is that it is true. There is need for healing. And the healing can only come through reconciliation, through forgiveness and reconciliation. But we cannot have this forgiveness and reconciliation when we cannot talk to each other. And that's why we are saying that maybe the new modus operandi should be that let us go back to our various communities. Let's start talking to each other. Let's look at what's happening and what's left to salvage for us to salvage that. Start forgiving ourselves at that level. Then we move it to the various levels. Okay. Because as you see this issue, Mr. Leo, the sins abound. The sins abound from top to bottom, everywhere. You and I, we all are the sinners here in this case. So let us learn to tolerate each other. Let us learn to develop or build a culture of peace. Let us learn to ask ourselves questions and look for solutions to those questions. Let us allow our communities to start talking. But now when people want to talk, they are subjected to threats, to horror, to terror. Then how are we going to heal? How are we going to bring about forgiveness, and how are we going to achieve reconciliation? Very difficult equation here. How do we even start talking forgiveness and tolerance and reconciliation?
Well, I think I'm still very, very optimistic. They say that life is built on hope. And if our hope is built on nothing less than on Jesus' blood and righteousness, I know tomorrow will be the best. I enjoy one of the SMS from Bamenda. You know, I am a trainer, and I told my trainees, one of the things I don't want to do is defining concepts to people. It's good to build. Concepts come from the way you feel, the way you think. Thinking is a mental process to establish reality. And if you think and you can establish, then definitely the way you see peace is different from a textbook defining peace. And so in the context of Bamenda, if you are telling people justice, justice, well, those who say they were just and have right to carry arms and for people to fight, today, there seems not to be justice, there's injustice. So in that context, people will prefer to tell you, oh, it's better this thing come to an end. If there is anything like justice, we can talk about it after because of what they're going through. So it is contextual. If you look at the two words, it's contextual. Somebody who is on his comfort zone will be telling you about justice. But someone who is on heavy fire, serious gunshots every day, that you can't go to the market, your children can't go to school. I think the first thing that comes in their mouth is peace. Because it is only through peace you have space for dialogue. When there is no peace, there will be no space for dialogue. And when you look at what I call today the context analysis, what has changed? Of course, you were many people challenge us peace actors. You have been talking. What has changed? A lot of things have changed. She just enumerated about the back to school campaign. We are talking today about a little bit of freedom, that people can move. We are talking today about some internally displaced person who have braved it and they're going back home. Statistics have shown that a good number of them are pushing back. So there's what we call people are adapting and adopting new ways of life. People are now adopting and adapting new ways of life. And I believe that it is not about humanitarian actions are good, but for how long shall we keep giving these people food? What kind of food are we even giving them? Every day I see is rice and Maggi, and I ask somebody, even in your own house, do you eat rice and Maggi every day? It's so challenging. And some people complain, these people have overstayed, and it's quite a challenge. So we just need that there's that space for peace. And we are engaged in this. And I remember, may his soul rest in peace, the late Christian Cardinal Tommy is one of the persons, the father I respected so much. I was by him through to his last days. I remember he told me, William, when people are talking, ask them what is their proposition, and as he will pronounce it. Don't only talk. What proposition are you making? It's not just about us talking and talking and talking. What proposition? What are you suggesting and what are you practicing? And I have learned that. And I've also, I remember my mother, the Right Reverend Funky Samuel, once told me the game, the process of peace is not for the weak. It is for those who are strong, who never give up, no matter the accusations. I have gone through that. And I'm convinced that if there is one person that supports me on this truth, this path, it's only God. Because sometimes you are in a meeting struggling to talk, seeing how people can live together, seeing how things can go, you attack with a kind of 20 million or 30 million that you've collected from a ghost that you don't know. And those things, sometimes if you don't have the energy, you become discouraged. So, Omam, instead of asking rhetorical question, which no human being out there will give us answer, I will instead tell Cameroonians to be optimistic. Yesterday is gone. Yes, we can only build our errors. We can only learn our lessons. We are today. What should we do? What should we do? What role should you play? You that is watching, you that is at home, what role can we play? If we do that, then topics like this will not be based on argument. I don't believe that people should argue whether it's justice or peace. As I said, when you do context analysis, people will define these two words from their background. Okay, from where they're writing. Yes, they will. They will. Somebody in your own day will be talking about justice because you believe that maybe elections should be, a politician will tell you, okay, I want justice. But as I tell you, if you are under gunshots, I have gone through this experience twice in my life. Once in Bamenda and again on Kumba Road. When once there is crossroad shooting, bullets don't know anybody. There was a day in Bamenda I wrote my will in my mind because I knew I would not leave that scene. Yes, there are situations like that. Convinced in my mind. There are situations like that. You get to a young man who is radicalized. That person sees something, and sometimes silence pays. Because every word from your mouth is interpreted by your hearers or whosoever. Sometimes you stay quiet. And sometimes when you stay quiet, say, at the talk, you should not quiet. So at the end, you don't even know what to do. So you just have to live at the grace of God. So I am not discouraged as I stand on this TV. I am not discouraged. I come from the Northwest each time. I love home. I love to be in the village. I usually brave it. They have been taken to the camp of the boys. They took me to the camp and I told them, you are my own younger brother. So you want to trigger the gun at me. What is my crime? for coming to the village, to come and see you, for coming, look at the village. This is a place where we used to enjoy. This is where we used to move. This is where we used to go to church. Look at the beautiful places. You have all stopped us from coming home. So if we don't come home, what becomes of you? So we come here because of the love we have for you. I have been crusading for back to school, and I have been giving all kind of threats because of the love for you. Because if we left for my own children, I would say they are going to school. But how can I have my own children in school? Because if those children are educated tomorrow, these ones are not educated, they are the same people who carry the arms. You call them illiterate. Yes, that's the way they can express themselves, by the gun. So let's think that this thing is a general thing, that it involves everybody.
Okay.
And we don't define ourselves from outside, but from inside.
And I think to add to what Reverend just said, I would say at times it is very important to ask questions so that we do an introspection of ourselves in order to bring out the forensic truth. And the forensic truth here is that we crave so much, we're looking so much for justice. Now, our children have not been going to school for the past 5 years, 6 years. Is that not an injustice meted on them? And if we should start talking about justice, where do we begin from here? Let us look at ourselves and the perpetrators of this act of denial, denying children, banning schools, denying children from accessing education, which is a fundamental right, which is their fundamental right. And so at times I will ask questions for people to give themselves the answers which are needed, because we say children should not go to school, yet the very us are saying that we need justice. Let justice begin from there. Let's start asking questions.
We should go to justice, to justice, to equity.
That's it.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying that, that's what I said earlier.
It's contextual.
That's what I said. That's what I said earlier. That we all, are to blame in this context. And so when we are using the word justice, we should be very careful the way we use that word, so that we ourselves do not become victim of our own words.
Greetings to you, Mr. Liu and panelists. A ceasefire is very necessary in Northwest and Southwest regions to enable a temporal peace to exist. This will encourage sincere dialogue to take place and the implementation of the resolutions from a sincere dialogue will definitely bring real peace. Ceasefire and sincere dialogue process implementation of resolutions is synonymous to justice. Thus, peace will return and continue to grow. This is Tikum T. Akuro filmmaking. However, who is talking of peace without justice to punish those committing violence on poor, armless people is a devil. Peace begins from the top, or power that be, and not from the people who have no choice to any violence meted on them. Okay? Yes, but everybody will face justice, whether you are big or small. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm really enjoying the program. I salute you in the studio. I think peace should come before justice. Sunday is writing from Kribi. I welcome Anglophones coming together. Let us preach what the right cardinal Tomi stood for. There is too much talking than action. Let the president stop this war and save Cameroon. James is writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Peace should come first before justice, because without peace, justice can't prevail. Paul is writing from Sopo in Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. If there must be peace, then there must be truth and reconciliation and justice sin to be done. Ayuk is writing from Bafusam. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The program is so mind-blowing. The honest truth is that we all want peace and justice, but I challenge all the parties to respect God's creation and give peace a chance by apologizing and accepting apologies. Kia Emmanuel is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the crew. It is true that the most important thing we need now is peace. Nevertheless, peace cannot be decreed. It or will not bring itself to us. Apart from calling for peace, we must actively work for peace by making compromise and looking at the actions from both sides of the divide. I'm afraid we are for a long period of suffering. Paul is writing from Bamenda. So many great messages. But we have to end here. Madam Omam, you are traveling this night. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. The pleasure was mine, coming here. We must multiply such platforms for us to speak to ourselves first before expecting people coming from any other places to come and talk on our behalf.
Okay.
Our communities are bleeding, our communities are in pains and sufferings, and the least we can do is to start looking for possible solutions to end this crisis.
Okay, we are very grateful you left Yaoundé, having so much to do. I know tomorrow you still have a lot to do out there for the sake of the nation. So you may be going back to Yaoundé today. Okay, I thank you too for coming.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure being here, Mr. Leo, and lover for peace. We do not do this for entertainment. We do this right from our hearts, and praying that this long pain comes to an end. And special evening to lovers of peace, especially those who have committed themselves as trainees in the PCC Peace and Justice Center. All we say is that we cross our hearts, even for those who have gone through pain, that God is with you. Never be discouraged.
Okay, we want to thank you all who took time off to watch the program. So many messages, we can't read all of them. Desmond and Eli, we say thank you for producing this edition of the program. And to you, Tabi Tambe Brian, supervising the work we do out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
In need of a helping hand, Mitanyan Cooperative Credit Union is here for you. Mitanyan Cooperative Credit Union is a dynamic people-owned savings and loans cooperative society